सगळे आमचे CCR TV पळयणाऱ्यांक माय मोगाचो येवकार. गेल्ले म्हयन्यांत 9 तारखेर Central Empowered Committee constituted by the Supreme Court said it does not find any justification for undertaking a project of doubling of the railway line between Tinaigat, Castle Rock in Karnataka and Kulem in Goa, which will destroy the fragile ecosystem of the Western Ghats. We know that Mormugaon Port Authority now, Adlyani Ami Muntale Mormugaon Port Trust, is a hub of coal in Goa. Though Karnataka has got its own port, Krishnapatnam, which should have taken all this coal that is being dumped, deposited in Mormugaon. Coal Atta, this project was basically for a coal project, Koni Atta to, and coal, what we know, it emits fly ash particles into the atmosphere, which contributes to air pollution problems. And such air pollutions that we have, it includes nitrous oxides, particulates, as I said, and they also contribute significantly to global warming through emissions of carbon dioxide. Now, environment effects of transportation is also a major source of greenhouse gas emissions. Therefore, we are concerned with the health effects, and this is a major concern for the people, not only of Mormugaon and Vasco, and also it also has got a direct and indirect effect on our ecosystem. We have been observing of late climate change, which is the sum total result of several natural and man-made factors. They say that 15% of global carbon dioxide emissions are attributed to transport sector. Transport of coal has environmental impacts. They occur during loading, en route, or during unloading also. What are the health effects of this coal? How will it affect all of us eventually, ultimately one fine day? We have got an expert in occupational therapy, and he is none other than our own medical doctor by profession, Dr. Jorson Fernandes. Dr. Jorson, my mogaso yokar tuka.
Thank you.
A project extra जे करूंक जाय आशिल्ले हे गव्हर्मेंटाक ते सद्याक बंद जाल्या. फाल्यां कितें जाय तें आमकां खबर ना, कितें देर इज अ क्लॉज देर मे रिएप्लाय म्हण. तें सोडया आमी. सद्याक कोल पळय गोंयांत MPA डिपॉझीट जाता आनी तेतून रेल्वे पळय वता, ताजो हेल्थाचेर कितें इफेक्ट आहा की ना?
Mormugaon Port Town, आता Mormugaon Port Authority जाल्ली आहा. And if you go to see, yes, what you are saying is really right, that it's become a hub now. Goa and Mormugaon Port has become a hub for loading, unloading of coal, whether it is coming from the ships, barges, and whether it's loading onto the trucks and trains, and it's going back in different directions. जेन्ना पळय लोक पळय उलयतात तेन्ना लोक अशें म्हणटात coal dust is something which is bothering them. They are not realizing the coal as such. When we are talking about the dust, the WHO also says that how much of that coal dust that goes into our lungs is affecting us is what is very important for people to understand. आमी coal dust पळय म्हणटा न्ही तेन्ना आमकां ताजे पळय बारीक पळय पार्टिकल पळय आसा, सामचो बारीक पार्टिकल म्हणटा तो 2.5 मायक्रॉनचे कमी. तो पार्टिकल येस मायक्रॉन्स ताजे कमी. तो 2.5 मायक्रॉन कमी पळय मायक्रॉन पळय डस्ट पळय आसा तो सोमतो आमचो पुलमा भितर वता. इट रिमेन्स देर. सम ऑफ इट गेट्स थ्रोन आउट, दॅट्स फायन. पूण तातून भितर जे पळय हेवी मेटल्स पळय आसा, इवन इन स्मॉलेस्ट अमाउंट आर व्हेरी डेंजरस.
हेवी मेटल्स खंयचे?
आता हे हेवी मेटल्स जावन आसा लेड, मर्क्युरी, टीन, निकेल, कैडमियम, chromium, arsenic. All of them are carcinogenic. We have also got radioisotopes, strontium, thorium. These are also there into the coal. आता हे पार्टिक्युलेट हे जे पळय बारीक हेवी मेटल पळय आसा, हे बारीकचे बारीकले क्वॉन्टिटीन आसा जाल्यार जाय ते एकदां एब्झॉर्ब जाले की ना आमचे हेल्थाचे परिणाम खूब जाता. ह्यो गोश्ट्यो म्हत्वाच्यो लोकांक अंडरस्टँड जावपाक. नाव हो कोल्ड डस्ट जालो जेन्ना पळय कोल आमी लोडिंग अनलोडिंग पळय करतात तेन्ना तो कोल्ड डस्ट वाऱ्यान वतलो तो आमी इनहेल करतले तो पुलमा भितर वतलो कंट्रोल करपा जायना कंट्रोल करपा जाता आय एम कन्सर्न्ड अबाउट द कोल दॅट इज बींग स्टोर्ड वयल्यान टॅरापोलीन घालतात बरें दिसता लोकांक कोल धांपून दवरला उपपाना डस्ट वयर वचपाना आमची जून जालो पावस येता सप्टेंबर ऑक्टोबर पर्यंत पावस सडटलो सो कोल्ड डस्ट इज नॉट गोइंग टू एफेक्ट अस हाऊ मेनी ऑफ अस हॅव थॉट ऑफ द स्टॉर्म वॉटर ड्रेन जेन्ना पळय पावस पडलो की ना जमनी वयल्यान उदक पळय हांवता तातूंतल्यान कोलान भितर पळय कितें आसा तें खंय वतलें आमचे वॉटर बॉडीजां वतलें अलॉंग विथ दॅट स्टॉर्म वॉटर इट विल गो इन टू आवर लेक्स इट विल गो इन टू आवर पॉन्ड्स इट विल गो इन टू आवर वेल्स वी आर गोइंग टू ड्रिंक दॅट वॉटर आनी तातूंतल्यान आमकां हें मर्कुरी लेड कॅडमियम क्रोमियम आर्सेनिक टीन एंटीमनी ऑल दीस थिंग्स आर गोइंग टू कम इन टू आवर बॉडी सिस्टम दीस इज अ स्लो पॉयजन it's not going to affect us right now but some years later we'll be seeing the effects of this onto our health this is which is very important for everybody to understand
जर तूं हेल्थाचे बाबतीन उलयता आतां and its effect in the long run it will also affect agriculture forestry horticulture aquaculture buildings and everybody I can give you one example आमचे जपानाक एक मिनीमाटा लेक म्हूण आशिल्लो दीस इज समथींग व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट फॉर पीपल टू अंडरस्टँड आनी त्या लेकाचे वयर एक आमची पेंटाची फॅक्टरी आशिल्ली एफ्लुएंट ट्रिटमेंट प्लांट वॉज नॉट वर्किंग म्हणजे तांचे जे पळय प्रोडक्शन जातकीर जे पळय कितें तयार जाता तो ट्रिटमेंट प्लांट तांचो चलनाशिल्लो म्हणजे तांणी कितें ठरयलें चलना आनी बरें आसा काडलें सगळें धरून तें लेकान सोडलें लेकान सोडटकीर वेर डज इट गो नाव इन द वॉटर फ्रॉम द वॉटर देर वॉज फीश इनसायड दे कन्ज्युम दॅट मर्क्युरी पीपल कन्ज्युम दॅट फीश and then people started having some trembling effect people started simply laughing people started simply crying कित्याक रडटाय कितें आसताय कोणाक कांय खबर ना इमोशनली देर इज नो डिस्टर्बन्स बट पीपल वर सिम्पली लाफिंग द ट्रेमर स्टार्टेड दे स्टार्टेड फॉरगेटिंग एंड देन पीपल वर वॉन्डरिंग वॉट इज दिस न्यू डिजीज न्यू ताजेर रिसर्च तयार जाली वेन दे स्टार्टेड टेस्टिंग द ब्लड ऑफ दीस पीपल दे फाउंड मर्क्युरी वॉज इन हाय लेवल्स आतां ही मर्क्युरी आयली खंयच्यान ताजेर आनी तपासणी जाली मोर रिसर्च वेंट ऑन When more research went on, they realized that this mercury had come from the fish. Now, in the fish, how did it go? Anik research zali, the painta factory kaden gele. Effluent treatment plant was not working, so tatutlan ती mercury तेमी सोडिल्ली आसा ती नुस्त्या खायल्या नुस्त्यान आमचे सगळे लोकांनी नुस्ती मारला नुस्ती खायला तांची बॉडीन गेल्या and we call this disease as the Minamata disease named after the lake. It should have been named after that company, the factory. कळलो का सो हे पळय अशे पळय गोश्टी पळय आसा आमी तरी आतां पळयलें जायत सुप्रीम कोर्टान जजमेंट दिलो आसा तातूंत ताणें म्हणलां दॅट दे कॅन रिअप्लाय दे ओपन अप अ लार्ज विंडो बट दीस विंडो वेन दे कम इन हाऊ दे आर गोइंग टू कम इन वी रियली डू नॉट नो इफ यू लूक इन टू द एनवायरमेंटल लॉ ताजो एक प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपल म्हण ताजो एक भाग आसा आनी ते प्रिकॉशनरी प्रिंसिपलान ताणें सामके म्हत्वाचे पॉयंट घातिल्ले आसात तातूंत म्हणल्यार वेन एवर यू हॅव even the slightest uncertainty that there could be harmful effects on the flora, fauna, on the human beings and our environment, then you must have research being done and collection of data. At the burden of finding out the proof or evidence whether it is going to have harmful effects or not is all left up to the proponents of the project. Oh, proponents of the ते भायर आमच्या गोंयांत पळय तुका आतां पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड आहा इंस्पेक्टरेट ऑफ फॅक्टरीज आनी ते कितले आहा हे कितें करता तर
ओके नाव वेन वी टॉक अबाउट द प्रोपोनंट दॅट इज वन थिंग सेकंड थिंग इज वी हॅव गॉट द गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड टुडे एक म्हत्वाची गोश्ट लोकांक जाणवायक दिवपाची म्हणल्यार दीस गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड हॅज अलाउड देम एंड द इंस्पेक्टरेट ऑफ फॅक्टरीज एंड बॉयलर्स हॅव अलाउड देम टू लोड अनलोड द कोल एंड दे आर सपोज टू मॉनिटर दॅट इज वॉट देअर ड्युटीज If you ask the inspectorate of factories and boilers whether they are really monitoring the coal dust, how much of it is being going into the air, I doubt they'll have the recording because these recordings should come on a board so that people know during loading time how much of dust is coming, during unloading time how much of dust is coming. Yes, सगळे तुया लोकांक दिवपा जाय. This is what is there in the precautionary principle and people's participation is a must.
पण हे आहा जाल्यार तांगेली ड्युटी हे सगळें तपासून लोकांक कळोवपाचें आनी जे पळय कोल हाडटा तांकां सांगपाचें हो प्रॉब्लेम आहा यू बी केअरफूल म्हूण
एक्झॅक्टली
पूण हें करपाक तांचे कडेन मेशिनरी आसपाक जाय रिसोर्सीस आसपाक जाय आहा तांचे कडेन
ओके आतां हो न्यू प्रश्न जो पळय काडिल्लो आसा मशिनरी आसा, इक्विपमेंट आसा, लॅबोरेटरीन फेसिलिटी आसा आनी तांचे कडेन फंडींग आसा, हो महत्वाचो क्वेश्चन. गव्हर्मेंट ऑफ गोवा and the present ruling dispensation feels that yes, we should have these projects. All crony capitalists they are trying to support. We know, everybody knows how these crony capitalists are supporting them when the elections come, when the voting come. आतून मदीं काबार कोण जाता? आमी जे पळय लोक पळय आसा ते काबार जातात, आमचो एनवायरमेंट काबार जाता. कित्याक गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड आमी जेन्ना पळय आमची मोठी मिटींग पळय चांदोर पळय जाल्ली तेन्ना आमचे एक्टिविस्ट जे पळय आशिल्ले तेमी कोल कलेक्ट केलो आनी खंयचो कोल विच वॉज फॉलन डावन बाय द सायड ऑफ द ट्रॅक्स इन चांदोर हांवें तो कोल व्हरून गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्डा कडेन दिलो. म्हाका पयलीं तेमी म्हत्वाचो प्रश्न तो सांगलो तो तूं म्हणपा 25,000 फारीक कर. हांवें फारीक करपाचें कित्याक ना म्हणपा तो म्हणपा कोल तुवें हाडला आनी तूं म्हणपा फारीक कर तो टेस्टींग करपाक. हांव फारीक करना, दीस इज युअर ड्युटी. कित्याक हाज्या पयलीं हांवें तांकां एक लेटर मारिल्ली आनी त्या लेटरांतल्यान RTN हांवें विचारलें गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड कायंडली गिव मी द इन्फॉर्मेशन whether you are monitoring when the coal is transported by road, by rail or by sea. तांचे कडेन कांयच इन्फॉर्मेशन ना. तूं जर वास्को गेलो जायत नेक्स्ट टू एंड्रूज चर्च, सेंट एंड्रूज चर्च, तो पळय शार्प टर्न आसा ते वटच्यान तूं वच आनी इगर्जेक फेस करता पळय ते वटच्यान जी पळय लेन हें पळय आसा आमची गटर पळय आसा तातूंत तुका सगळो कोल मेळटा. बिकॉज वेन द व्हेकल टर्न्स अराउंड ऑल द कोल दॅट इज लूज इनफ फॉल्स इन टू दॅट गटर. तांचे कडेन कांयच हें इन्फॉर्मेशन ना. सो इफ यू डोंट हॅव द इन्फॉर्मेशन आमी एक्टिविस्ट जावन तुमचे कडेन कोल हाडून दिला. गोंयचो एकवट कलेक्टेड दीस कोल आय सेड आय विल गिव इट टू द गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड. दितगीर म्हाका तांकां 8 ते 9 म्हयने लागले. 9 म्हयन्यांनी एक भुरगीं तयार जाता आवयच्या पोटान आनी हांकां 9 म्हयने लागतात आमकां रिपोर्ट दिवपाक. हांवें म्हणलें लॅबोरेटरी खंय आसा? रिपोर्ट पळोवपाक गेल्यार कितें गदक म्हूण कितें तरी लॅबोरेटरीचें नांव आनी रिपोर्ट तो घेवपाक कणकोली खंय तरी लॅबोरेटरी आसा थंय धाडिल्ली आसा. Kankoli is not in the state of Goa. So Goa State Pollution Control Board doesn't have a laboratory, doesn't have the equipment, and on the contrary they are saying funding, you pay the money for the testing. I say I'm not going to pay a single naya paisa. I want this report to come.
ताचे सारकें आहा दोतोर. ते पळय तुकडे सांगता फंडिंग कर म्हूण कित्याक ते सगळे पळय प्रोजेक्ट तांकां फंडिंग करता. सेम रूल तुका लायला
तो म्हाका लायलो. कळ्ळें तुका? पूण ह्यो गोश्टी जेन्ना पळय जातात now who is supposed to look into this matter? It is the people who are ruling, who are in charge of this. The environment minister is supposed to look in. You are supposed to find out when you are proposing a project, does my Goa State Pollution Control Board have the necessary laboratory equipment? Does it have the necessary facilities? Do they have the necessary personnel to go and find out when the coal is being transported by road or by rail, whether the tarpaulins are being packing it up properly or not? ह्या कांयचे मॉनिटरिंग जायना तांचे.
तुवें पळय सांगलां की केसीस ऑफ कॅन्सर आनी मिनिमाता पळय तुवें सांगलां इट लुक्स लायक डिमेन्शिया, अल्झायमर, पार्किन्सन बी हें तरी तुवें पळय सांगलां त्या प्रमाणे हे सगळे केसी गोंयांत वाडत आहा.
व्हेरी ट्रू. ह्यो वाडत रावतल्यो कित्याक हाजे बद्दल आमचे कडेन डेटाय बी ना, हाजे बद्दल आमचे कडेन रिसर्चय बी ना. And I think it is time for the university and the Goa Medical College to find out whether such type of disease pathologies can be attributed to this type of pollution or industrialization without a proper policy, because the health policy and the industrial policy should go hand in hand. Yeah, interdepartmental coordination जे पर्यंत पळय जायना ते पर्यंत आमच्या लोकांच्या हेल्थाचेर हो परिणाम चालूच उरतलो. सो हाजे खातीर आमकां इंटरडिपार्टमेंटल कॉर्डिनेशनाचें म्हत्वाची एक संघ आमी तयार करून दवरपा जाय. पळोवपाक बाबा ओके तूं इंडस्ट्री हाडटा हेल्थाचेर कितें परिणाम जाता तो आमी सांगतलो तुका अशें कितें तरी तयारी जावपा जाय. ही तयारी जायना जावं पर्यंत लोक तशेच उरतले, लोकांक कांय म्हायती उरपाना आनी आमकां मागीर अशी परिणाम जातलो गोंय सोडून आमकां धांवचें पडटलें. इट वील नॉट बी अ प्लेस दॅट वन कॅन लिव इन द वे द पोल्युशन इज गोईंग ऑन टुडे.
बट तुका दिसता की हें कोल आतां आमी उलयता हें सिट्युएशन सद्याक कशें आहा?
Situation is horrible because I can tell you there is one research paper from United States of America and Australia. तातून ते मेन्शन करतात एक बुगी म्हणजे एक आमचो पळय वॅगन पळय आसा तो एक वॅगन 600 किलोमिटर डिस्टन्स पळय वता तेन्ना 300 किलोज ऑफ कोल तातूंतलो भायर पडटा विथ वायब्रेशन. खांची आसतात खंय तरी क्रॅक आसता वाऱ्याचेर भायर पडटा. ब्रीज मातशें चड जाता की टारोपोलीन तुगे फिक्स केलें जाल्यार तो कोल थोडो भायर पडटा. आनी हें आमी ऑब्जर्व केल्यार सांग गोंयांत बी तीच परिस्थिती जाता. पूण कोण मेजपाक गेलो ना ते कितले जाता म्हणटा ते कोण कलेक्शन करपाक वचना. गार्बेज कलेक्ट करताय, कोल कलेक्ट करपाक कोण वचना. तो हो जो तरी कोल जो पळय सकला पडटा तो 300 किलोज एक वॅगनांतल्यान पडटा जाल्यार तूं आतां कोत कर 20 बेगीन नासल्यार कितलो किलो जालो तो आनी ताचो 4 ट्रीप मारल्यो मल्टिप्लाय बाय 4 and multiply by 365 days.
आणि ते वाडोवंक सोदताले म्हणजे सगळे गोंयकारांक काबार करूंक सोदताले.
आतां हो कोल खंय पडटलो ऑल अलोंग द ट्रॅक्स.
म्हणजे इज नॉट ओनली ऑन वास्को, ट्रेन वास्को स्टार्ट जाता ती आमच्या गोंयांत लास्ट देखून तुका कोलंबी वयता म्हणजे सगळ्या लोकांक हो इफेक्ट जावंक शकता.
वर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ इट इज नाव वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट अ व्हेरी सरीन एनवायरमेंट विच इज अनपोल्युटेड. जे पळय आमी वेस्टर्न घाट्स पळय उलयतात वेर युनेस्को हॅज declared them as a heritage site. तो environment आज आम्ही थ्री टच करतात and that's very bad. It's a very sacred part of our Western Ghats which we are trying to now have the double tracking done down there and walk all थंय बीन पडटलो कित्याक ताका चटाव आसतलो. Wagons are going to become like this. So थोडे तरी फाटल्यान खंयच्यान तरी पडटले. And where does the water that we are drinking today come from? These mountainous ranges are our water tanks. People have failed to realize that. So right at the source itself you will get that water polluted with all these heavy metals. Right from arsenic, cadmium, chromium, tin, antimony, nickel, mercury, lead, all these things are going to go in. Second thing, we have got two radioisotopes, strontium and thorium. So right from the source itself, the water is going to be polluted for heavy metals. And if Goa State Pollution Control Board today doesn't have the facility to check this water, what are we going to drink tomorrow? We are going to feed our future generation all heavy metals.
So there is technology to check and verify what is the content, and I suppose there will be a solution.
Yes.
Because all over the world there are these problems. So if there are problems, there must be immediate solutions for that.
And
why is the State Pollution Control Board not thinking at least on these lines?
Goa State Pollution Control Board, their scientists were there when we had the hearing in Vasco. And I remember I asked this typically all these questions and they had no answers. They were sitting like statues, inclusive of the people who were the proponents of the project, were sitting down there. They did not even open their mouth. They were with their mouth shut. I don't know the reason why. These are technical questions which public would love to know. And now several years have passed by since that time and still people do not have the answers. Now, we have got also in that precautionary principle, apart from the preventive measures, apart from the data that needs to be processed to show the evidence of harmful effects, it also talks about alternatives. And it talks about the public participation. Now, what are the other alternatives? Why do we need coal? Does Goa need coal? Somebody else in another state needs coal. If that is the proposal, why cannot the coal be taken to that port which is closer to them? That's point number one. Point number two, what is very important is the same activists who have collected the coal where there was no monitoring done by the Inspectorate of Factories and Boilers nor from the Goa State Pollution Control Board were sent an arrest warrant. For what? You are sending an arrest warrant to the activists who are supporting you, who are helping you to find out what this coal can do because you couldn't do because there is an RTI information with us where they say that we have not been monitoring the coal as it is being transported. So they are giving you that coal. Two, you don't have a facility to check this coal. You send it somewhere else. You get the coal, check it, and you find lead is in high quantities. What have you done? Nothing. And for asking all this question, you are sending an arrest warrant to the same activists who are helping the people. They are doing their job.
This reminds something like the Salazar during the Portuguese days.
It's worse. It's worse than that. We drove the Portuguese for their regime, and today what we have got is a worse regime than Salazar. So the same very activists, now that at least the Supreme Court has given a judgment saying that you can reapply or whatever it is, and that double tracking is not being required, at least see that those arrest warrants are being withdrawn. The government can do it. The government doesn't want to do it. So whom are you trying to frighten? Are you trying to frighten?
Fear.
Yeah. So don't go with coercive methodologies. Coercive methodologies will not work because I have seen as a student activist, the moment you try people and corner them, we can be bad. And when we are bad, we have even pulled down governments. There's a history in the state of Goa. And hope that doesn't happen. But the BJP government opens up their eyes today and says, okay, Baba, fine. We take into whatever you are saying and do corrective and preventive measures rather than sending arrest warrants to our people. At least when the Supreme Court has given the judgment now and told them to reapply, it is time for the government to withdraw these cases against all these activists.
It reminds something like that formalin and the fish. They knew that formalin was coming. They knew that it is bad, cancerous and all that. Yet they slept. the Food and Drugs Administration pretended that there's no problem at all, and now they are saying they are going to test. People have lost faith.
Very true, because this is exactly what happens when, the manipulative politics for making money comes in. And I think the only checkmating is done by the activists, but activists are being taken in a wrong, word that the people are talking about. I don't say that all activists are good. Some of them, yes, here and there are bad people also. But that doesn't mean that you label every person as bad. These activists were sincere activists who were sitting down there, peacefully agitating. You'll have sent them arrest warrant. The clause itself tells you there are alternatives. The environment minister was on record. Our former chief minister, late Parikar, is on record, where he said that, yes, I will not allow any more coal to come into the state of Goa, and he has given various reasons. The environment minister is talking about that, yes, there are other alternative methods of generating energy. When that is all being said for the state of Goa, yes, I understand we bring power from other states, no doubt about it, but can we generate our own power? Where is that technology gone? Where are our scientists gone? All of them are not over here. They are in other countries serving better, because this is where the roadblocks are for the intellectuals to run away, because you are not giving them the freedom to provide something good for the state of Goa.
And there are today alternative methods of energy.
Right.
And they have, I believe, now withdrawn even the subsidies for the alternative to promote coal.
Facilitate, yes, very true. Because we were talking about solar energy as one of the forms. You have seen even in the beginning itself, there were a lot of solar panels that were there even for the street lights. That was a good form of doing it. There are many people who were also having their solar energy that was being generated at their homes, and then they were giving it to the government.
And they were getting some income.
And the government is not paying them. Now, these sort of political manipulations for supporting the crony capitalists is become a habit, and it's a criminal habit, because finally you are going to kill the people of Goa, the same very people who have voted for you and who have gotten you in power. And this is something that the people have to realize.
But by and large, most of the people don't even know, or they pretend not to understand.
Now, these are what are called the bigots. I'm very sharp onto this. Because even if they know, they will still try to support. And that's something which is very bad. Because you are supporting whom? For your generation time, you are supporting a present governance. But what's going to happen for your own generation, which is going to come in the next maybe century? What are you going to keep back for that generation? You are the person who has been responsible for killing your very own blood future generation. And that's something that people have to realize. Forget about the ruling dispensation, forget about which political party and ideology you're going to support, but look at your own blood, which is going to be your own future creation. And that's something where people should
Because when you talk about health, health does not have any color.
Yes.
It does not discriminate.
Very true.
It can affect anybody and everybody.
We have seen it during the COVID times.
But unfortunately, people in Goa don't seem to realize this fact.
Yeah, and when we are talking about these alternatives and public participation, which is another part of the precautionary principle, I would rather say that the Supreme Court, when they reapply, at least they talk about it and say that, okay, your application is incomplete because you have not talked about alternative energies, you have not talked about alternative methodologies, you have not talked about alternative ways of creating the source of energy. It should also talk about that the onus is on you, that you have already transported coal, find out all this data, how much of effect does it have, because now what will happen is they will say this amount of mercury and tin and antimony and strontium and thorium that is there, it is not from our coal. Because that is the reason why the Goa State Pollution Control Board took almost about 8 or 9 months to give me the report. Because I have seen series of mails that were going on from Adanis and from other people who are bringing the coal at the Marmugao port town, and they were saying that आम्ही ट्रान्सपोर्ट करतात, आम्ही लोडिंग करतात, आम्ही अनलोडिंग करतात, ट्रान्सपोर्ट आनी कोण करतात, ट्रक आनी कोणागे असतात, रेल्वे आनी कोणागे असता, अशी प्रॉब्लेमां जनरेट जावन ते वचून शेवटी मागीर तो रिपोर्ट दिला आमकां, आनी तातूंतय बी लेट सुबेज आसा. म्हाजो प्रश्न म्हणटा तो लेट सुबेज आसा म्हूण तुका कळ्ळें की ना, बाबा तुवें ताजेर एक्शन कितें घेतलां? आमकां एक्शन करपाक जाय. एज अ गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड तुवें तांचेर एक्शन कितें घेतलां? ते म्हणटा ना, कोणालो तो ट्रक, तूं कोणालो ट्रक तो आज सोदपाक वतलो, तुका लोडिंग अनलोडिंग कोण करता ते खबर आसा, दोनूच एजन्सी आहा थंय, फिक्स देम अप. टेल देम दॅट यू हॅव टू पे फॉर टेक प्रिव्हेंटिव्ह अँड करेक्टिव्ह मेजर्स. कोण करेक्टिव्ह प्रिव्हेंटिव्ह मेजर्स घेवपाक तयार ना. Everybody looks in is how much money I'm going to make now for this moment of time, and that is not going to resolve the problem of Goa. We have to look for the future generation. And that is what the United Nations Sustainable Goals are. People fail to understand that sustainability. I know that many people are talking from where we will get power. There are methods of generating power. If you don't know, it only talks about your ignorance. And we have got people who are educated and highly intellectual people who can tell us and guide us how we can do it, and you don't want to do it. So it shows your manipulations to tell people now the way that you are talking about subsidy kaadल्या, because then they'll say like, आता subsidy kaadल्या, everybody will say, मागते solar energy bin काय naka. They'll say, let this coal only go. This is what will
Yeah,
happen.
you were talking about the alternative principles. चार म्हणताल तो.
Oh, चार. I'm talking about the 4 points in that principle. One is that very important. If you have to take the preventive action, you have to take it now. You cannot wait when all these pollutants and heavy metals have gone into the water bodies. That's number one. Number two that we are talking about is the burden of finding out the evidence of harmful effects is all on the proponents, not on anybody else. You spend the money, you do your funding, and you give a report. It should be a total neutral agency which is going to give us a report. The third one is alternatives that are available for us for transportation, for loading, for unloading, or alternative. Why only Mormungaon Port Town? You take it to the other ports so that this population is being kept untouched. Why Western Ghats destruction? Leave it over there. You can take it to the other port which is closer to these units which are using that coal. Or for the state of Goa, if you find there are too many people who are consuming electrical power, can we have solar energy? Can we have from hydro energy? Can we have wind energy? These are the alternatives that are available today. We have bikes that are come now today. Nobody thought of once upon a time, but आज आमच्याकडे motorcycle आसा, which are running on batteries that are being charged. So there are so many things that are available for us. हाज्या पयलीं बोटी चलताल्यो, कश्यो चलताल्यो, वाऱ्याचेर चलना आशिल्ल्यो, आनी लोक वचना आशिल्ले. So पुर्तुगालासून लोक हांगा पावले, तांचे कडेन मोटर आशिल्ले, तांचे कडेन एनर्जी आशिल्ली. On the sales they came. What brought them is the wind energy. So why we are failing to realize this? And at that moment of time, those ships were not something that was having high technology, but they reached Goa, they discovered Goa, they ruled Goa, and they traveled and they also transported ores and spices from Goa. So what stops us from doing that same thing once again? There's nothing that stops us. And the fourth one, which is very important for us, is public participation. So publica कळोवन दिवपाची गोष्ट पळय म्हणटा ती त्यो आमचे इन्स्पेक्टर ऑफ फॅक्टरीज एंड बॉयलर्स, आर एनवायरमेंट मिनिस्ट्री, आर गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्ड हांचेर सगळ्यांचेर आसा. हे 4 प्रपोजल.
आता judgment पळय दिला, people were very happy because it protected the environment, it protected the animals, birds सगळ्यांचे. Now nobody seems to be talking about protecting the human beings of coal per se.
The reason म्हाका तरी दिसता की असले प्रोग्राम करतकीर लोकांचे मनाचे परिणाम खूब जातलो आनी लोकांक शिक्षणीक कळटलें बाबा कितें जाता म्हणटा तें. हे पळय मेटल्स पळय आमी आतां पळय सांगल्यात, all these metals, whether it is lead, whether it is arsenic, whether it is mercury म्हणटा हांवें डिटेलीन सांगिल्लें आसा, whether it is cadmium, chromium, arsenic. म्हाका तरी याद जाता आमचे कुकडे जेन्ना पळय पोल्युशन पळय जालें, arsenic was one of the items that went into the water and there were people who started dying of cancers. So lead is another one that also caused आमचे पळय गाय पळय आशिल्ल्यो त्यो येवपा लागल्यो पयल्योच. See, many manifestations are being shown through the animals and we human beings are unable to observe what that animal is trying to tell us. And because हे पळय बारीक पाडे पळय आमचे एबॉटिंग पळय जाताले, ताका लागून लोक म्हणपाले दोतोर अशें कितें सगळे बारीक बारीक पाडकां फूल जावचे पयलींच म्हणपाक भायर पडटा मरे म्हणून. आनी ताका लागून आमची रिसर्च तयार केली, गोवा स्टेट पोल्युशन कंट्रोल बोर्डाक हाडलो, एंड देन वी रियलायज हेवी मेटल्स. Animals tell us many stories and they are worthy stories for us. If we are not going to listen to those animals, they can't talk, but they tell you in the form of their own death. Because before death could come into the human beings, they tell us in their own form.
So the warnings are there.
Yes. And if people are unable to read that, it is going to be a futile exercise if you are not going to correct it now.
So I think it calls for more intervention, active participation from the people, and also we need to force the authorities, especially the Goa State Pollution Control Board, Inspectorate of Factories and Mines, that you may get a problem, but there is a solution. So get what is needed, and I think if all of us are aware and work towards that direction, we could minimize the effects on health. Dr. Jorson, चड देव बरें करून तुका ही माहिती दिली म्हूण, and let us hope tomorrow will be at least slightly better, if not very much better. Dev Baren Karu, Dr. Jorson.